listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup!
College football.
The Big Ten Championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn State holds!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten Championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
And the NFL.
1:16 to go, 41 yards. Cardona to Allen. Skowski. 6 titles, 9 appearances. How about the drive to go close it out? You see Tom Brady. Enjoy him, folks. You're never, ever going to see it again. Not in our lifetime. Nope. So here's Zerline, part 1, 48 yards. And we'll end it. No good. The rain continues. Yes, it does. They've got to snap it one more time. The ball will end up in the hands of Tom Brady on the kneel down. And there it is. The dynasty continues.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
All right, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 273 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I am not sitting here alone. With me will be co-host Justin Raffoff, also our guest Chad Henne this evening. But I think first off, I want to mention something from an email we got from my uncle asking if we had changed our intro yet to remove the Eagles crap. I think that's a direct quote, and put his Patriots stuff back in. And, you know, Justin, I thought maybe you'd have something to say about that.
Yes, last week I specifically asked you if you could dub in sound into my headphones that it would still be the Eagles intro so that I would just be like blissfully ignorant in my headset, and you chose not to do that. So I will blame your Uncle Rich for that. And I have nothing more to say about that.
Well, I would say that I have a lot going on here that for me to splice a different audio track for you is probably asking a little bit too much.
Oh, it's definitely asking too much. But that's not the point. The point is no one likes the Patriots. So
well, yeah, that's true. I think that's true. Chad, no one likes the Patriots, right?
Yeah, I mean, 2 years in a row.
Yeah. Well, we weren't going to bring it up. Actually, we probably were.
We were going to bring it up, yeah.
We'll revisit that.
Well, it's just like we have a lot of anti-Patriots sentiment here in the studio, but out far, and those listening, we know we have a segment from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut that are diehard Patriots fans, and we hear from them a lot, so... But Chad, thank you so much for joining us again. I can't believe it's been almost 6 years since you were last on the show when we had our 100th episode celebration, and you joined us live for, you know, it's like 40 or 50 people showed up. It was a lot of fun. So thanks for coming back again and, you know, answering some of our listeners' questions.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I always enjoy coming on, and hopefully we can make this a yearly episode.
Hey, that sounds good to me. And I think the listeners agree because we had a few people ask, and a lot of excitement. I can't say that we've had so many likes, shares, retweets. Justin's favorite when we do our contact information, the like and share, was very active this week when we announced that you were going to be on the show. So we definitely appreciate you taking the time to join us. We don't have a lot of initial stuff to go over in the beginning because I think the point of the show is to kind of celebrate the 8th year of our show. We started that last week. We're continuing it this week, and the main part of this is all about answering listeners' questions before we dive into ours. So I think if there's anything else that wants to be said beforehand, and we'll probably just dive into it right away.
No, I think we're good to get started.
All right. So up first, Chad, this one comes from Karen Worrell, who's a Wilson graduate. She wanted to ask you how your football coaches have influenced your life both professionally and personally.
We'll start with a big question.
Yeah, it is. It was heavy, philosophical angle, but I thought it was a good question and definitely one. I think she had wanted to ask this 6 years ago when we had you on, and we didn't get to it in time. So I'm glad we were able to do this for her now.
Yeah, I think anytime you get a good coach, he's almost like a father figure to a lot of athletes that go up. And I've been fortunate enough to have plenty of great coaches throughout the years. From Little League, Carl Dragonet, if he's listening, and, Bill Kirkpatrick. You got those guys. You got Anton Fernsler going into, Central Junior High School. Jim Contafio, obviously, Doug Doms has been there forever. Ernie Walber's been there. All those guys are very influential. And then going on to Michigan, playing for Lloyd Carr, old school kind of coach. My quarterback coach, Scott Loeffler, who I still talk to, both of them. Scott just got the head coaching job at Bowling Green. Yep. Yeah. So very happy for him in that. And then, going to the NFL, I think, Tony Sperano being the head coach, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Obviously, he passed away this past year, but he was a big inspiration in me and getting along and kind of getting my years going in Miami and going in career that way. But then moving on in Jacksonville, Mike Malarkey, Gus Bradley, all the coordinators. From Jed Fish to Greg Olson to Nathaniel Hackett, all those guys. Really just, I think if you keep an open mind as a player, you can learn a lot of things, not only football, but in your personal life. And I think how to be a young man, how to mature, all the hard work that goes into it, just teaches you valuable lessons in life. And now with Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, Mike Kafka, these guys are great on the football field, but again, also great mentors for young men in this league, and I think they do it the right way. And you can see as the Kansas City Chiefs, a lot of good guys on the team, a lot of good personalities, and shows for it. You get to an AFC Championship game this year.
Awesome. That's great. It's awesome to hear, be able to rattle off all those names, being able to remember all those names. I just think shows that they each had a huge impact on your life, because that was a lot of names. And some of them that you said, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Chad would have been with him. That would have been a guy that he would have been listening to over the years. So I forgot when you bring up Tony Sperano, that as soon as you said his name, I was like, wow, and he passed away this year, really suddenly. And he was with the Vikings, I believe, at the time. Yeah. So obviously, being a huge Dolphins fan, that was really shocking when that came across. And obviously for you personally, having been interacting with him for so much time over the years, that was a huge shock and a disappointment to hear when that came across. But so thank you to Karen for that question. And the next one comes from Chris Fisher, and he wants to know, and this actually kind of maybe relates a little bit to my dad's question about, I'm kind of going to roll these together here. Do you plan, is 2019, you have a 2-year contract with the Chiefs, the second year is coming up. Have you been thinking about the future? Is the NFL coming to an end for you? Are you going to be searching for another contract? Is that something you'll talk about with family as this next year goes on? And once you do end up retiring, be it, this year or 5 years from now, do you have a plan for the future, and would that possibly include coaching at Wilson?
Yeah, obviously signing this last deal for 2 years, I felt very comfortable with it. I think my goal in the beginning was to hit 12 years, so I'm approaching this 12th year this year, and I think it's getting a little bit more difficult just because my son Chase is 5, my daughter's 3, and Chase hasn't started kindergarten yet because of his birthday in October, so it'll start next year. So dividing schools is a little tough on him, but he's adjusted very well, and so is my daughter. She's actually started her first year in pre-K this year, but they go only half days, which is good, so they're not in all day, and they get to meet new people. But yeah, we'll see after next year. I think earlier on when I signed the deal, I thought this was it. But I think I'm probably going to push on and see if I can get, a couple more years out. And I'm just still having fun. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think the coolest thing now is seeing my son be able to see what Dad does. Even though I'm not playing a lot, he gets to see me in the preseason. But I think it's just cool to see his perspective of the game. And I mean, he knows every single player probably on the Chiefs. It's crazy. And he loves football so much. So if I can be more of a role model and kind of just show him that even if you're old, you still can have work ethic and pursue and still hang with the young guys. And, you know, to go on with that question, what do I want to do afterwards when it does come to an end? I'm not sure. I mean, I want to, you know, still establish myself here in Pennsylvania. I believe we're going to retire here. We built a house here, so this is where family is. And whether I coach at Wilson, I mean, I think I'll help out. I don't know what my position will be, but in some sort I'll help out as much as I can if they allow me to. And I think I want to kind of just still train quarterbacks, and I think that's still in me. If I get outside of the game, I think I'm just not doing any diligence to myself that I put all this work into. So I have so many lessons that I've learned and that I can pass on to the youth, and believe that I can kind of just help young men in this community and maybe train some quarterbacks that will have the opportunity like I have.
Yeah,
well, I'm sure people would be lined up to have some of that. You talked about, you know, those number of coaches that you've had that have kind of, you know, each in certain ways been able to help you. I'm certain you've gained more information than most people could ever even imagine, you know, to impart some of that on younger athletes and students and things like that. I'm sure would have a huge impact.
I'm sure Chris Fisher isn't the only person in the Wilson area that was wondering that question, and I think they are happy to hear what you have to say about it. But you talk about the training quarterbacks, you know, all that goes on at Spooky Nook. I think there would definitely be an opportunity for your expertise to lend a hand. You know, obviously Coach Contafio is there too, but also a gentleman. I don't know if do you know Daryl Daniel?
Yeah, Daryl. I actually threw with him last year.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, you know,
got to throw a couple times up there. So
yeah,
nice.
he and I did the PA Football News show together, and he's always posted tagging the Wilson athletes that are working out. So obviously you got plenty of connections in the area that would be an awesome you know, post NFL career to continue lending your talents to the region's top prep players.
Yep.
All right, so well, I have another one here from an email, and this one I'm going to read if I can properly pull it up here. All right, so this one is from my Uncle Rich, the Patriots fan. So this one might go on.
So if you don't want to answer, that's fine.
Just say next. Say next. Yeah. Okay, so he starts.
Or tell us the answer after the show, and then we can like, I don't know, decide sometime whether or not we want to share with him what you said.
So he says, hello, Joe, Justin, and Chad. He's taking time from my Super Bowl celebration to congratulate you on 8 years of sports talk and to Chad for his years playing in the NFL. I was wondering if you were going to change the show's introduction. Well, he already got an answer to that. Actually, if he would have listened to last week's show, he would have known that. So yeah. He's apparently a week behind. Just give Justin his own intro using the Eagles Super Bowl call. Joe, you will just have to wait for a Dolphins Super Bowl call. Technically, I could go back, but I'd have to go back 45 plus years. So
yeah, you'd probably have to upload it into digital format.
Right. He says, Chad, I root for any team that you are on except once or twice a year. I really think the Chiefs will make it next year to the Super Bowl. He picking the Chiefs over the Patriots already.
Yeah, I think he's sandbagging a little bit.
I think so.
We'll wait and see.
He says, maybe it's too early to ask you about your favorite team or coach or players that you played for or with since you are still playing, but which cities do you like visiting with the team, and which is the toughest place to play? I wish you all many more years of doing what you love. After all, Brady has to retire sometime. So that's from my uncle in Massachusetts, and he wants to know which cities do you enjoy visiting and where's the toughest place to play?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've been fortunate enough. I think I played at every stadium so far except for Candlestick when that was. I didn't get a chance when that.
My understanding, that's okay.
Yeah, so from what I've heard.
So, but favorite city, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, this year coming to the Chiefs and their fan base, I mean, it's loud. It's the loudest stadium I think in the NFL. every Sunday, I remember coming into our first game, we had 2 away games, and then we played San Francisco at home, and I usually get there 4.5 hours earlier, so I'm there pretty early, and we were on Central Time, so I get there at like 8:30, and I called my wife and I said, you better leave now. We live 35 minutes from the stadium, and the parking lot was packed. And I was like, it's 8:45. What are people doing? Like in Jacksonville, I mean, we had great fans, but it was just like, it'd take time for people to come in, and and obviously us winning took a little while once I was there, and we finally got on the road 2 years ago. But I mean, fans are passionate out in Kansas City, and it's probably one of my best experiences I've had so far. Always loved to go to Green Bay. That's old school feeling.
Yeah.
The fans are great. They're appreciative of the opposing team. Trying to think of another favorite. I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed playing in Miami. I thought that was fun, especially early on when we were winning. First year there, we went to the playoffs, so that was fun. But toughest place, I mean, I don't want to toot your uncle's horn.
Gillette.
I gotta tell you, the Patriots is a tough place to play. I mean, their fans are into it. They got stupid things, guns shooting off, everywhere half the time. When they score, but it's tough. They play well at home, and it's tough to beat them there. I think I only beat them, maybe 2-3 times in 12 years, and being in the division, playing them 2 times a year. Says a lot about their organization, and obviously we've seen their dynasty and everything that goes about them, but it's one of the toughest places to play.
Okay, so I'm just going to add on to this real quick. What about in college? I mean, I know like playing at the Big House has got to be incredible. I saw you play there once.
No, let's not talk about that.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that one, though.
2 seconds.
Right. Yeah. So, Chloe said we're not talking about it. Yeah. But after that, in terms of like road atmospheres, what are your thoughts there? Like in terms of like maybe a cool place to play or even hardest place, like either one, like whatever.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I didn't even mention college, but obviously Michigan was probably the best experience I've had. Just always packed house, the biggest stadium in the country. But I mean, I enjoyed to come to Penn State. I mean, being in State College and obviously growing up here in Pennsylvania, I think we had one night game there my junior year.
You did.
Yeah.
So,
we were there. Yeah. I was with Chris.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. The whiteout. I mean, a lot of fun to play in. Ohio State is definitely one of the toughest places to play in. Plus, I feel like they, juice it up with some noise in there as well, because I remember my freshman year just getting under center and couldn't even hear myself in the cadence. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, there's no way it's this loud. But that's definitely loud. The Seahawks this year.
Oh, yeah.
Playing there.
12th man.
I think it was Sunday Night Football. That was a tough place to play as well.
Yeah. Does it ever like? I mean, I know you probably have a million things going through your head all the time, but like when you're there on like in the sideline in Seattle, like does it like do you ever even get like a moment to just like think like this is so cool, like, or do you just have so much going through your mind and you're trying to concentrate on so many other things that you don't even really get a chance to appreciate it till maybe like later when you're reflecting on it?
I think when you warm up like pregame, not pregame, but like right before the national anthem or right after when the coin toss is about to go, when everybody's pretty much in the stadium now, the game's about to go, get the kickoff going. I think that's the funnest time when you're just chucking around and you kind of just see all the people either bashing you or cheering for you. Right. And, I think that's when you kind of appreciate it. And it's, we're appreciative as players. The fans coming out to support us and pay our bills. So, it's definitely fun to see them get rowdy.
That's cool.
All right, so there are a few other questions that we have that are actually more related to general sports stuff, but I think we have a couple more that people want to hear Chad answer specifically. So actually kind of related to that is, do you follow other sports closely when you're not dealing with pro football? Do you like to kick back and watch NBA, college basketball, hockey, like whatever? Is there anything else that you follow closely?
Yeah, I'm not a big NBA fan. I mean, I think everybody's just one of those that you just go in the finals and like, oh, they're in the finals. Let's watch the finals. And but college basketball, I follow. I grew up a Duke fan. J.J. Redick, when I was in school, was there. Obviously with the Sixers now, but they had some great teams. I think Coach K is a great coach. Has a lot to show for it. But I think I'm just one of those that with other sports, I have to wait till it gets to March Madness and it kind of gets into the nut-cutting time. And I don't know, I guess I'm more of a bandwagon in that place. But I just feel like that's more excitement to me. Like in basketball, baseball, I can't really get into golf. I enjoy to watch, but again, it's more... Let me hit to the Sundays and stuff like that.
Right, like get me to the Sunday of the Masters and like
those big moments.
It's I think we talked about almost 5 years ago now. The year Austin was born, my son, he was born in like midway through April, and I've probably watched more NBA in the last 5 years than I have leading up to that. Mostly because the Sixers were terrible, but then got interesting. Right. But also, like, I had a newborn, like, during NBA playoffs time. And so, like, I was watching basketball games. And so, like, it's just one of those things. But, yeah, like, it does have a little bit of that feel like, I'll check in April. And, and even college basketball, there can be big games. But, like, Duke can play Kentucky, and it can be fun to watch. But, like, it doesn't really it sounds like it doesn't matter. Like, they're both going to be there. Right. Come March, and that's when the interest level will be up. I'll be entertained, but that's interesting.
A few people asked this question collectively. So, do you cheer for or against other teams or players when your team's not involved? With the Chiefs now, is there someone that you're like you enjoy their success, or someone like I don't want to see them do good?
I don't think you ever wish anybody would do poorly just because. I've been in that position too, where you don't play well and you move on to a different team, and people say, "Well, what happened to him?" Blah blah blah. But I think people mature in different stages, and you get lucky sometimes, and luck of the draw of the team or the players around. So I cheer for everybody. I don't ever have regrets. I don't have regrets about Jacksonville. I don't have regrets about Miami. I'm just grateful that I'm here and going into year 12. And I think anything that you ever go into in life is all about networks. And I think you meet different people, and that's what keeps you going. I think just the personalities that shine through that make you want to keep coming back, and the brotherhood that you cheer for everybody.
Now, I believe growing up you were a 49ers fan.
Yeah.
Did that still, are they a little bit higher than everyone else? Or is it kind of just even playing field now?
Yeah, it's kind of even playing field. I just think, now that I'm in it, I just kind of want my team to do the best that they can. I still root. Texted Blake Bortles all the time this past year, wishing him well. Sucks how the situation ended up. But people that I spend a lot of time with, especially quarterbacks, you're in there so many hours that you develop an uncanny relationship that you can't just forget that you just you want to root for them because you've seen how hard they work and you've been right next to them. So, but yeah, the coolest thing this year was Joe Montana in the AFC Championship. He was my idol. Got to beat the drum to start the game.
That's awesome.
And I got to meet him probably about 12 years ago when I was Elite 11. I was a counselor out there.
Okay.
And Joe's son was out there. And I got to meet him. Phenomenal person. And then this year it was cool to see him and beat the drum. And then I was warming up in pregame, throwing her some receivers, and I look over the sideline. And Joe's watching me warm up, and I was like, holy shit. Freaking my idol. He's
right here.
Me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's the coolest thing. And I think once I think when you're younger and even my age, the idols, you just hope that they're good role models, and when you do meet them, that they're the same person that you always envisioned. Sometimes you get the bad part, and that's tough to swallow, but luckily enough, Joe was nice enough to still talk to me and spend time with me. So that was cool.
No, that's always good to hear, definitely, that you hate when you've looked up to someone like that, athlete, celebrity, movie star, whatever, and you meet them and they're just they are not the person.
I wish I wouldn't have seen behind the curtain.
Right, I wish I always had that perfect appearance of them. So that's really cool that Joe Montana's like that. So obviously, you're a member of the Chiefs and you just got to sign with them last year. It was fun watching, from the outside, it was fun seeing the reports of, oh, Chad's meeting with this team, Chad's meeting with this team. In the end, you ended up going to Kansas City. What was the driving factors behind signing with the Chiefs over the other suitors?
I think it was just Coach Reed himself. The ability to take any quarterback that he's with, all kinds of guys. I mean, Christ, he was Brett Favre in the beginning, then he went to Donovan McNabb, Christ, there were so many Eagle quarterbacks, to
I was gonna say
Michael Vick, to
Doug
Vince
Peterson.
Young, Doug Peterson was there, to Nick Foles, drafting Nick Foles, and then to Alex Smith to rebuild him,
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, obviously the young phenom, but everywhere he goes, he seems to just incorporate quarterbacks and allow them to bring out the best in their abilities. And his play calling is great. He obviously has a lot of talent around the quarterback at times, but he really focuses in on what the quarterback does well and develops them very well. So that was pretty much why I went there.
That's awesome. I really like to hear that because, as we alluded to early in the show, I'm a huge Eagles fan. So, like, for a lot of my, time that I was aware of my fandom, like really into it and things like that, Andy Reid was the Eagles coach. And it's one of those, again, more than others. Sometimes change of scenery is probably just the best for everybody. And, but, man, he I think gets overlooked in terms of the Eagles, how his success there. It was unprecedented.
Right.
They were, other than a couple years, early 90s and then early 80s, they were pretty much a joke for my whole life other than the time that he was there, so I'm happy for him, even though it's not with the Eagles, to, still be seeing that success. And
yeah, he's just a good person. He's has a lot of humor, which keeps you on your toes, but he can engage with any player, and I think he has enough ease to him that players feel welcome to him, and he just you can go talk to him at any time, which is awesome. Not a lot of head coaches are like that, but he also is very disciplined. If you're not doing the right things, he gets on you and points out all the things that you can improve on. But just very easygoing to get along with, for sure.
That's awesome.
A question I got a lot in the fall at the beginning of football season, as if I would have any answer to this. I did hear the answer eventually, or what I think is the answer, and I'll let you give the real story behind it. Was you weren't able to wear number 7 in Kansas City, and you ended up with 4. And people were like, "Oh, why did Chad choose 4?" I was like, "I have no idea." And then I think someone actually told me a story. I'm wondering if it was true or not. So how did you end up with number 4 instead of 7? Was taken, correct?
Yeah, somehow the kicker. Harrison Bucker, which is a great kid. But it was after his first year. I think he got they picked him up off of Carolina's practice squad or something, or got a trade to him. But he had 7, and I was like, I got there and sorry, 7's not available. I was like, who has it? And they're like, a kicker. I'm like, come on, kicker. I didn't even know the kid because he was so young.
Right,
but he actually had a exceptional year the year before. He hit 90-some%.
Yeah.
I don't want to mess up his mojo.
Right.
I'm coming in as a backup. I'm not going to screw this up. So as soon as I knew I was going to sign, I called Brittany, my wife, and talked to my son. And I said, these are the numbers available. I said, what number would you like for Daddy to be? And Chase was like, 4. And I was like, well, why 4? He goes, because I'm 4. He was 4 years old last year. Yeah. And I said, well, Chase, when you turn 5, I can't just switch it every year as long as you get older. And he's like, I know, but 4 sounds good for now. He had no clue what that meant. But so I stuck with 4, and I feel pretty good. Brett Favre.
Yeah. So we'll see when you're not 5 this upcoming year if he's cool with it.
That I hadn't heard all that story, but that's the general gist that someone told me along the way. So that's what I've been telling people. So I'm glad that it's true. And I was like, hey, why has he got 4? They got Chase picked him. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, it does. That's really cute. That's an awesome dad-son bonding moment. It's what a great story. Yeah. Well, I'm 4. That's great.
So matter of fact, of course.
Yeah, why did you think of that? You know that, right? Yeah. So
as fellow dads, we can hear our kids saying it in that voice. Be like,
absolutely.
This makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
But
it's very sound logic. It was a great job by Chase for sure. So you mentioned Mahomes, and when you were answering that last question, had you interacted with Mahomes before signing with Kansas City? Had you met him, playing against him the year before or anything like that?
No, so the only interaction I had, actually, he came to Jacksonville for a visit the year before he signed, and just met him passing through the hall, just introduced himself, and that was about it. And, talking to the coaches, Mike Kafka, who I actually played with in Jacksonville, who's our quarterback coach now, got to talk to him, and he spent a lot of time with Patrick because Alex was with Nagy, and it was, Manheim Central, we all know, which is cool. But Patrick spent a lot of time with Mike, and I knew Mike pretty well. He was with us for an off season, so just asking about Patrick and his work ethic, and Coach Reed pretty much told me everything I needed to know as well. And I just felt like it was going to be a great fit. Knew that he was going to come in and work hard. I felt like he had a great leadership. At least they told me, for a young guy, which he did absolutely surprise me for a young guy to step in and do what he did and control this offense and speak up when he needed to speak. Was exceptional. So he really made my job easy, and man, I think he made a lot of guys' jobs easy this year. But we got along right away, and as soon as I signed, I texted him. I said, "Looking forward to meeting you and working with you." And we spent the most time together, and it's a great relationship for sure.
Awesome.
So, you almost talked more about his off the field and intangibles and leadership, but when you got to see him perform at practice and in the film room and whatnot, could you kind of see that he had what it takes, that he was going to be special and, kind of take the NFL world by storm this year? Were you surprised at all by how successful he was?
Yeah, man. I think everybody's surprised. You never know. Going into preseason, going into mini camps, we knew he has the talent, but you just NFL season's totally different.
Right.
You got to be consistent week in and week out, and I think he just had the right head about him. His note taking was exceptional. I feel like I'm a really good note taker, but this guy was very detailed every week and never changed from preseason to the AFC Championship game, which was very impressive. And I think he always asked the right questions, and he spoke up when he didn't like something. And that's very hard to do as a young quarterback in this league, because you got Andy Reid, who's Hall of Fame coach, telling you, well, I put this play in for this, and Patrick's like, I don't like that play. And some coaches get taken back,
Right.
and like, what do you mean? It's going to be a touchdown. Like, what about the play? And Patrick's like, no, I don't feel comfortable with it. And Coach Reed, scratch it out. So it was a good relationship between them two, and it was cool to see him speak his own mind on the field and off the field. But you could see talent-wise he had it, just putting it all together, making good decisions. And as the year went on, he made better and better decisions. And he made a lot of people look good, and a lot of people made him look good. We have talent around him as well, but everybody meshed together and played well together, and that's what why he's the MVP. And he told in his speech, it's not just him; it's a lot of the guys that went into it and his teammates as well.
All right, we've got another question here about since the last time that you were on the show. You played 6 more NFL seasons, and you've crossed paths with many players over the years. Does anyone stand out in any ways, good or bad, that's just like they were a character, or their personality was something different, or kooky on or off the field, or maybe even a super positive life, like incredible philanthropist? Is there anyone that jumps to mind that you think that's someone that was interesting to cross path with?
Take a minute. Blake Bortles gets a lot of rap. And obviously I was with him for 5 years, and 4 or 5 years. Yeah, 5 years. But nobody understands what goes on behind the scenes, and his work ethic is similar to mine, and everybody else, he just didn't have, I felt like, the talent around him to exploit. And I'm not saying, and he'll tell you right away that he's not like a straight drop back quarterback that's just gonna wow you, but the guy makes unbelievable plays. And the year that we went to the AFC Championship, it was because of him, whether it was his legs or making unbelievable throws. But I think his off the field, how he matured. Everybody's like, oh, he goes to the bars, he goes to this and that. And I was like, mean, he cut that out pretty quick. I mean, he kind of realized, hey, I'm the man. Like, I'm not doing this. He was like a loner. I mean, he lived by himself, and he stayed at his house a lot. And, you know, anybody in 22 years old is going to go out and have a beer or, you know, drink or meet some girls. And, you know, you can't fault him for that. But I think he was better off the field than what people give him credit for. But, you know, he has special needs who he supports in his charities. He supports first responders. And he's always willing to support other charity events. So, you know, he gets a bad rap, but he truly, to me, like, for all he's taking, his personality and his the way he handles things has been exceptional to me, because he could just come out and bash people all the time. But, you know, he just takes it in stride, and, you know, it's a learning experience. It's a learning experience for everybody.
I think a lot of people have, like, a misconception of, like, oh, well, if they did this or if they did that, you know, like, my team would win and stuff. Like, well, it's not that simple. Like, it's not like your team's not working, you know, like, or they're, I think people think, oh, well, if he just did this a little bit better, it's not that simple. I
mean, as a quarterback, I mean, there's times in my career that, I wish I would have played better. Like, I think everybody would. I think you realize it right away, but sometimes it just is not your day. But you learn from it and you move on, and you hopefully don't make the same mistakes twice.
So we talked about it a little bit, or made allusions to it, but you, with the Jaguars now almost 2 years ago and the Chiefs this year, playing in back-to-back AFC Championship games, what was that experience like, knowing that you're at the pinnacle of the game right before the big one that everyone talks about, and then the heartache that comes from coming up just short to the Patriots 2 years in a row? Like, what is there? I don't know. Is there anything different about it? Like, is the build-up so great? Like, or is it just kind of like another week and you're just disappointed in the end?
Yeah, I mean, I think just getting there. I think the 2 seasons that I really, like, look back on are just how hard we worked in the off-season. I think it was never easy. There was always something that either the offense or strength and conditioning or something that was challenging and just brought the team together more and more. And just created that bond that I haven't seen in past years. And I think that's why we got to where we were and how far we got, because, you know, the difficult times that we went through in the off season and everything meshed together, and a lot of the experience that we learned throughout the season. But to get there, knew how hard it takes to work to get there. But I mean, it's disappointing when you don't get to the big show. It's just, you put all that work in, you're so tired. It's just like, after that game and you lose, you're just like, you know, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. You think back of what it could have, should have, but it's just one of those teams. I mean, times that the team was better than you, and they came in at the right time and played better than you in some situations that you can never, you know, take back. But I felt like we played exceptional game both years. Obviously, we didn't finish it in Jacksonville. We were up with 5 minutes to go in the game, and, you know, good old Tom Brady marched down the field.
I was going to say, Tom Brady did Tom Brady things.
Yeah,
like
and it's hard to go against a Hall of Fame quarterback each year and give him much respect for that, and Belichick. And, you know, as much as you want to hate him, I mean, you got to respect them, because they're tough to beat, and they have great game plans. And we had great game plans too, but, you know, we just fell a little short. And obviously this year in overtime, it's just like, you don't get the ball. I knew exactly, like, even with the 45, 50 seconds left, I was like, once we got the ball, I'm like, oh, we're totally getting this field goal, or we're scoring. Like, we're going to win this game as long as we have the ball. It's like, if we give them the ball, you know, you can't control it.
Right.
You know, our offense was in the groove at that point, but, you know, going to overtime, they just marched down the field, you know, 3 3rd and 10s. It's tough to swallow, but I felt like if we had an opportunity to get the ball, like, we would have won that game. But there's a lot of things we could have played better in the first half as well. So, you know, it was, I don't know what it was, 14-0 or 14-7. So we could have put more points in there too.
So, I mean, you talked a lot about, you know, facing the Patriots there. This is a perfect segue into the next question, because this is the one that I came up with, because I was interested to know about this. And unfortunately, my uncle stole a little bit of my thunder, because I wanted to know what it was like to play at Gillette. I've been there. I watched the Dolphins game in Gillette a few years ago, and it was an interesting experience. It was a lot of fun. Because I was walking around with a bunch of Patriots fans, no one gave me too much of grief wearing the Dolphins stuff, but I know that it was an intimidating atmosphere for sure. But according to what I was able to find, I think you've played the Patriots now 13 times, including playoffs. For the teams that you've been with in your career, you've played them 13 times. You personally, and for the teams that you've been on, is preparing for them, is there anything different just because you know that they're just seem to be a step above everyone else? Like, everyone seems to be trying to catch them for almost 2 decades now. Is there any kind of anxiety or any kind of developments that happen when you know New England's the team that you have to face?
I don't think there's anxiety. I think it's just more that Bill Belichick's going to take away your number one thing on offense or defense, and he's not going to allow you to do that. And obviously for us, I mean, he shut down our run game completely. He shut down the Rams' run game completely, but that should have, in our favor, we threw the ball all the time, so it didn't really matter. But they beat us in man coverage, and we begged people all year long to play us in man coverage because you're not going to play Tyreek man coverage. You're not going to play Sammy Watkins man coverage and Travis Kelce. But they played it well. They double-teamed Tyreek, and, sometimes we didn't win one-on-one matches. But that's what he did. He took away one of our guys, and we felt we were still better than them no matter what on the other side. But they're going to take away something, but you just have to overcome that and kind of just not play in their hands, but kind of just go after them again. And second half, we figured out, we're like, screw it, we're just going to throw the ball. And we scored, 30-some points in the second half. And it's a lot of fun to see, but, you got a Hall of Fame quarterback on the other side, so you got to stop him as well. And it doesn't matter what defense you have the best defense, and he's still going to tear you apart. Last year in Philadelphia, when we played the Eagles, still put up points. I mean, that was a damn hard defense to play against.
Threw for more than 400 yards. Yeah, insane number of yards and a lot of touchdowns.
But it didn't matter.
It did not matter.
It didn't matter. You still overcome, but you have to overcome some of that, and you have to get a break in the game, just like every other game. But it doesn't give you anxiety. I think it just makes you play on your A game at all times and, just study their habits.
Yeah.
Have you had many post-game interactions with Tom Brady or Bill Belichick? Like, have you had much conversation with them, or is it just kind of the cursory, good game kind of stuff?
I think earlier on in my career, I think I had more conversation with Tom just because of starting. But in the past years, we've met him either on a primetime game where the freaking media charges the field and you can't ever get in. So I'm like, I'm not even going to bother. And, let it be. I don't want to bother him in that situation anyway. But I haven't kept in contact with him. I only talked to him earlier on in my career and obviously in college a couple times.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is what it is.
In your opinion, is he the greatest quarterback of all time?
Yeah, I mean, it's
is it not even close anymore? Like, it's just him.
Six championships. I mean, it's kind of like your Michael Jordan. It's like, I mean, he already was a, Wheaties box figure. It didn't really matter. But for his comebacks, his Super Bowls, obviously, and to play at 41 years old, to play like at this level, it's ridiculous.
Right.
With the talent that he had, like, he's throwing to white guys. Like,
he's throwing to college lacrosse players.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Edelman's a hell of a player, and he's a competitor, and Tom will tell you that. But I mean, jeez, like Hogan, Josh Gordon, which helped a little bit, but Gronk, obviously, but Gronk is kind of filtering his way out.
Gronk from like 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah.
But still, Gronk always has a couple plays in the game that bam, it's like his go-to, and he makes it happen, and it helps obviously being in the same system for that many years that he knows the ins and outs of it. Even when he's saying Josh McDaniels, 2 hours before the game came up with these plays, but I don't know if I buy that.
Right.
But maybe he did. I mean, it's just personnel groupings that he just switched, was running the same plays.
Right.
But I mean, it's hard to beat.
Yeah. So, from a player's perspective, it's something that you can offer us and the listeners. You're in the NFL locker room when these, for lack of a better term, scandal type things happen. with the NFL, whether it, has to do with the national anthem or the policies that the NFL has to deal out punishment to players, or if it's something that some people in New England would say is ridiculous, but like all the constant controversy surrounding the Patriots, whether it was the deflated balls, the spying, like those kind of NFL scandals. How do the players react to those? Do they get talked about much, or is it just kind of like you're focused on your team in the here and now and anything else is just noise?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're focused on your team, but at the same time, I think your head coach addresses it maybe once a year. And Coach Reid, he was so businesslike about just football. Like, he literally has an index card, and he won't ever go with his notes further than an index card, just the front. He'll never flip it over. He feels like your attention span's only like 3 to 4 minutes for a natural human. So once after that, and especially in our profession, so he doesn't really talk about it. But if it's needed to be said, he'll say something. But I think as a player, it goes on. I mean, our society is what it is. I mean, it's tough to go day in and out with it, going on, but without being said. I mean, the media blows it up, but I think you respect it as long as they're doing the right steps to take forward, especially with the national anthem. Like, I don't mind Colin Kaepernick because he's doing something off the field too. Like, he's doing charities, he's going to school, he's speaking. Like, some of the other guys taking a knee, it's like they don't do anything off the field, and you can't really respect that. Like, I don't, because I don't know if they know why they're kneeling.
Right.
So things like that, I kind of just like wash under the board. But guys that are active, and I respect them for that, because everybody does have a voice, and something needs to be done about it because it's not right. And but at the same time, what are you doing it for? Like, a lot of these guys, they're not doing it for the national anthem. They're doing it for social injustice, and Trump doesn't help either. It's like, we're tweeting back at each other over like young men. It's like, oh my god.
Well, in the end, it's all about the context.
Yes.
You have to know what the point of everything being.
Yes.
Whether it's national anthem or all the other stuff that happens
Right.
is what truth and facts and all that. So that was awesome to hear. That was, you don't get to talk. We listen to the media and we talk amongst each other, but we don't get how many people actually get to say, "Hey, you're an NFL player. What's your opinion?"
Right,
on
yeah.
that?"
And I mean, I think that your answer kind of makes a lot of sense because, like, something happens with the Patriots game on Sunday, or a call or a non-call or something, everybody's going to be losing their mind, and that's all we have to talk about. Like, we don't have football-related things until next Sunday,
week, right.
And so when that happens, that it's going to be this huge deal in the outside world, but like, Patriots play next week and, Chiefs play next week and stuff like, so it's over with. It's done with, I think you probably have
I think
better things to concentrate
in a
your
locker
time
room,
on.
because obviously there's African Americans, there's white, Caucasian. I mean, there's Samoan. I mean, you got all kinds of diversity in our locker room that, like, there's nobody. I mean, we feel like nobody's racist. I mean, we're around it so often. Like, if you're racist, like, somebody's just, I mean, it's going to be pointed out.
You're going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, I feel like on the Chiefs, I mean, everybody gets along. Like, we have no problem. And
Awesome.
I think Coach Reid, handles it well. And I think it's all about the head coach, too. Like, they have to set the tone and talk to the players about it. And if there's an issue, you go talk to Coach Reid or the head coach, and he eliminates it right away.
Now, is that something where you feel like, because we have seen like a theme of some like really young coaches getting a shot in the NFL, and that can be good in other ways, but do you feel like coaches like Coach Reid might have like some kind of like intangible kind of like advantage in that sense, where like he's seen a lot and he's done a lot, and he has kind of that, he has that almost equity that where like his take on how things should be handled or how we should do things as a team is kind of, he has that built up already. Do you think that's an advantage for teams like the Chiefs who have a coach like that, who kind of have that I don't know, just maybe, for lack of a better term, a trusted coach, or maybe a proven coach. That's probably a better way than trusted. But
yeah, I mean, I think he's set in his ways, and I don't think he's going to change for anybody. I mean, obviously, for as long as he's been in it, he's not going to change for too many people, but you still have to be able to adjust. I mean, it's different age now. I mean, you got guys that were born in 1995. You got, some millennials that are just like, it's a different way of life of how they're raised. But you still have to be able to communicate with them and kind of just set it. I think you just have to be consistent in your message. You can't stray away from it. And even as a young coach, just, set it straight for, right in the beginning, don't change. And be the person you are. Don't try to be somebody else. And I think that's kind of who Coach Reed is. He just wants to be himself.
I'm sure because of the timing, the locker room after the game against the Patriots, guys are kind of don't know possibly what the future could hold because there's guys that could be leaving and whatnot. So you may not be thinking about the game that happened before you started. When you guys were all in the locker room afterwards, did you get to see highlights from the NFC Championship game? If you guys had reaction to the non-call, like how big of a story did that become with you guys, or was it not because of the game that you had just played?
Yeah, we actually didn't see the play. We just kept seeing because our game got delayed 10 to 15 minutes going out, and it's we saw the score obviously at the end, and then we went out, but we didn't see any of the plays. We just knew, all right. The Rams are in it, and that could be our next opponent. Yeah. And, you're so in tune to what you need to do on the field beforehand that, you watch the game, but you're just like, all right, we got to worry about what we have to do in order to get there. So, kind of just let it be.
After you've seen it now, what was your first reaction when you saw the play?
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's, to say it's a human eye, well, what are you watching? There's mistakes.
Right. Explain to me what you saw.
You can't do that. And I think, obviously when it gets down to that nut cutting time, there's no official review or anything like that. It goes up to the booth, and penalties are a tough thing. Sometimes you can review them, sometimes you can't. It's we're screwed.
Yeah. Well, this will be one of the last questions that we have here, but it's related to that. Actually, you kind of bring it up about penalties being tough, and we saw one in your game that was egregious that a penalty they called towards the Patriots received it because they called roughing the passer when. I don't remember who the defender was. Just kind of grazed. Was it D Ford?
Chris Jones.
I think it was Chris Jones. Yeah.
Grazed Brady's face mask, and this is not meant to be anti-Patriots in any way. This is just general NFL. And the question that we got from was this your mom?
It was my mom.
Okay, from Justin's mom, from Cheryl. She says, in your opinion, do you see the NFL as getting soft on quarterbacks and kickers? What are your opinion as a quarterback and as an NFL player? The rules that the NFL has kind of put into play to protect quarterbacks, is it something that you don't like? What's your opinion on it?
I think there's a lot of favoritism. I mean, I think you have to earn your stripes. Patrick didn't get a lot of calls this year, and this is his first year. I mean, sometimes he did, but sometimes he didn't. Right, it's just all right, this is ridiculous. But, the guys that I feel complain all the time, I mean, I'm not going to mention names. But I think people know, a lot of guys do, but I think, they get more calls than not. I think when you're, even me, I get hit, and it's whatever it is, what it is. You're going to get hit. But it is getting soft.
Well, it's...
I do agree with, the Brady rule, coming low, and you can't be...
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
That stuff, but, just a shove or, you can't put your weight on the quarterback.
That was my tackling. That was the next one, yeah.
I wouldn't know as a defender how to hit a quarterback, because some of these quarterbacks, Patrick's pretty big dude. You hit him and you don't wrap up on him, he's gonna spin out and he's gonna make a throw down the field.
Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Big guys, you have to wrap up and you have to bring force into the tackle in order to get these guys down. So.
Even in the Super Bowl, I remember thinking, as Jared Goff was running out of bounds on the one play, and he was not out of bounds yet, and he got lit up, and I'm just and they didn't call anything, and I get it, he wasn't out of bounds, he was going out of bounds, but he wasn't out of bounds, But I was like, if that would have been the other, if the Rams would have been on defense, I feel like the game, they would have just called the game right there. But like, again, that is my Patriots bias coming through. But yeah, I think some
established guys.
Some of the inconsistencies, I think, are one of those things that drive you crazy. But that's not just on those. I feel like everybody loves it when their team gets those calls, and they hate it when their team doesn't get those calls.
Yeah, that's called being a fan.
Yeah. Being rational isn't as much fun. So
I think it's just more like the obvious, like, okay, like, you just reviewed that and that happened, like, go back and call it.
Right.
It's funny, we were watching your Chiefs Patriots championship game while we were doing the show. We have it up split screen and we're doing our show live and we're watching the end of your game. And that happened, the Chris Jones barely touching Brady's, and we couldn't believe that it was a call. And it just, obviously contact on the quarterback happens a ton in every game, but you only hear about usually the ones that are terrible calls. But that was just one that stood out. It's just like, wow.
So, I distinctly remember watching both of those games like 2 years ago with Jacksonville. And was Jacksonville were they the first game or the second game?
They were the first game.
You were the first game that year. And I just remember thinking like
11 and Pill and leads to 0.
Well, I just remember if Jacksonville makes it, like, Joey is definitely not rooting for the Eagles in the Super Bowl if the Eagles make it. But then this year, I was so rooting for the Chiefs. Oh my gosh!
Oh God, we wanted Chiefs Saints so badly.
And nobody really wanted to see the 13-3.
I feel like that was the game we deserve for having Rams. Patriots.
Well, I mean, we talked about it on the show now the show ended before your game ended, but we were like, I honestly believe that if it's Patriots Rams, it could be one of the lower watched Super Bowls.
Right.
I mean, I think it was close to a decade low. It's just people are tired of seeing the Patriots, and
Patriots fans are going to watch, obviously, and people will watch because it's the Super Bowl. But I'm like, you're not going to get. And then the game itself didn't. Help.
It didn't help at all.
3-0 at halftime. Everybody's like, "You've got to be kidding me!"
Right.
All right. The last one here before some closing remarks comes. Sorry, I didn't write down who it was from, but they want to know, and this could go back, I guess, maybe to Wilson days. We're probably more college and pro now. Have you had any interesting or weird fan encounters? Like, anyone come up to you, like, ask you to sign something, and you're like, why do you want this signed? Or like to take an odd picture, or were they just a very unique individual? Anything like that?
I don't know. I mean, I was just on vacation, and literally like 4 or 5. One guy in the airport was wearing a Notre Dame shirt, and I was like, oh jeez. But he like looked at me, and I was like, I kind of just like looked at him, like, okay, maybe he doesn't notice. Like, hopefully he doesn't notice me. But he like knew who I was, but he was respectful about it. Like, he told some of the people at the resort. So then it was like pretty much it got out there. Yeah. But everybody was actually very respectful, and we talked, and they just they wanted to know the ins and outs. And one guy was a big Michigan fan and grew up in Detroit, which is cool to meet him. A lot of people were from New Jersey. There was Boston people, of course. But I don't know. I've never really, had a bad fan experience. I don't think.
Well, that's good.
But which is good. But I'm sure Brittany knows more than I do, so she could remember. Definitely tell me.
Yeah, that's how that works. I'm sure.
So I think the last thing we want to close with here is just we appreciate you answering all the personal questions, the football questions, but I know you also have your own philanthropic ventures or organizations that you support. One of them that you were able to kind of broadcast or show this year was the Chad Henne Foundation, and you participated in My Cause, My Cleats with the Chief. And I think there's too many people out there that don't know what Chad Henne is about. So do you want to kind of give everyone an overview and some information on what the Chad Henne Foundation is?
Chad Henne is for pediatric brain tumor or cancer. It all started, Lloyd Carr, my coach in college, his grandson came down with the disease, and it's DIPG. Can't really pronounce any of those words that it means.
Yeah,
but, pediatric brain tumor that he came down with. He, hard fought for a year and a half, and then passed away at the age 5. So heartbreaking knowing Tammy and Jason, Chad's parents, getting to know them and going through that, travesty is always tough. I mean, obviously we have kids, and you never want to see that happen to anybody's kids or your child as it is. But I felt, last year obviously I did Gilmore Henne, which have the cleats, which is our organization as well, doing revitalizing parks in the area. But I felt this was a great way to do it. They're always supportive of me. Lloyd's always been a great role model to me, obviously a great coach in college, and just a great family. So it's a good way to support them and give back to them for childhood pediatric brain tumors.
So did they give you an option to participate in this? How does it come about? Do you have to do any? Do you have to make a requisite donation? Like, how do you get involved with the NFL and the charitable causes? What led to the cleats?
Yeah, so the NFL, I would say, I don't know if it was 2 years or 3 years now that it's been running. Instead of doing just breast cancer, the pink in October, they're saying, why does the NFL only designate one cause?
One charity, yeah.
So they created this My Cause, My Cleats. So any time in that, whatever, 2-3 week period, the NFL, you can support anything. And
without being fined, right? That was
exactly,
the whole point.
Yeah, you can't get fined with your cleats. So, usually the team has an artist in town, or you can send it to a different artist, whoever you prefer, and can draw anything on your cleats that you care about or are passionate about, and can kind of exploit it and give it a little publicity. Really just pay the artists and then try to donate the cleats to their cause, and I pass them on to Tammy Carr, and she can auction them off in their event in May. So it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, it is really cool. I know, and Justin and I being Penn Staters, we've seen the Penn State alums that have done Thon, which just happened this weekend. They were able to raise $10.6 million for the dance marathon this year. But it's really cool to see. There's charities out there that you've heard of, but I like seeing the ones that I don't know anything about, so you can go on and find out more. And obviously I had known Chad Tough through the stuff that you've been doing, but it was awesome to see you participating. I remember, I think your mom shared it on Facebook, and we were able to post that on the Wilson page to get people more involved and to see what that was about. But I knew for sure we wanted to talk about that tonight. So you can learn more about the Chad Tough Foundation at chadtough.org. Chad, you also mentioned about Gilmore Henne, and there was a bunch of huge projects that you and John undertook over the years, and a lot of impacts in and around the Reading area. Is there anything going on with Gilmore Henne at this time? Is there anything happening with the foundation?
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much pass it off to Berks Community Foundation, but we're still involved with the summer programming and doing stuff. We still need to kind of get up on it. We kind of took a lull the last year and a half or 2 years for different reasons, but we definitely still have the funds, and we're still supporting the parks and keeping up with the parks that we have done in the past, and still supplying camps for kids in the summertime in the city, or the people that go to the parks. So we're still funding that as well, and anything that kind of comes up, it still goes through us, and for donations or whatever, and we still give out some scholarships and stuff like that. So still involved in that, but kind of just need to find the next project and kind of get it going again.
Well, Justin, do you have anything else to say, or any questions that you were given that I may have missed?
No, I mean, it was great having you on. It's fun to kind of just sit down and hear. Like I said, we sit here and just talk about the stuff that we see or we think might be going on. It's fun to hear somebody who knows what's going on, knows what it's like, and just hearing your stories. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, we thank you so much for taking your time away from your family in this part of the off season where you just want to relax, and then I'm like, hey, you want to come on the show? It's like,
yeah,
we're really
I talked about how before the show how whenever just around I try not to be that guy, and then tonight we're just that guy. So, yeah.
That's no worries. Anytime you guys give me a call, and as long as I'm not busy, I'll be happy to help.
Well, we hope everyone enjoyed the show. We went a few minutes over, but try to keep it to about an hour, and we appreciate Chad joining us, and he answered all the questions that everyone sent in, or the ones that I was able to track down. So hopefully we can do it again sometime. I'd love to catch up with you whenever you're free and interested. And just thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
You guys. Thanks.
So next episode for Justin and I will be 274, but it will be about a month from now. We're actually going to do Bulldog Hour next week, just kind of put a bow on the bow of the 2018 season, and then start to preview the 2019 season, and which will be the 75th season of Wilson football. So a lot going on for that. We're going to have a lot to talk about next week on the Season 5 premiere of the Bulldog Hour. But when we come back on the Joe Mays and J-Raff show, we will be talking March Madness, because it will be Selection Sunday. So our next show for this one will be Sunday, March 17th. You can always get more from us on jmnjrradio.com, and make sure you follow us on Twitter and like our pages on Facebook. I think we mentioned it last week. We want to send out a happy birthday again to Justin's sister Andrea and my uncle Rich, the Patriots fan, celebrating his birthday. And for all those that we missed, we're sorry. We can't remember everyone. But any last words, Justin?
No.
All right.
That's how it ends every week.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, he's like, I'm Justin. Yeah. So thanks for joining us. That wraps up the 273rd episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff show. We hope you tune in every Sunday for our take on sports. Until next time, for Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
on Facebook Live
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.